All right, so plants need lots and lots of nutrients. They can't survive. We know that plants need carbon dioxide. They use that carbon dioxide to build sugar. We know they need light so they can have photosynthesis. We know they need water. But they also need lots of elements found in the soil. They can't survive on water alone. Misnomer or misconception. People, you see a lot of people will stick plants into water and just think it's going to grow forever. It won't. It needs nutrients to keep growing. It's one reason you'll see if you were to get like cut flowers, they come with little packets. Those packets help add nutrients to make those flowers last a little longer. So don't just keep giving plants water. They get that from the soil. Soil is not just dirt. Soil is alive. You have microbes living in the soil. You got some minerals in there. Obviously, a lot of water, organic materials, prokaryotes surviving there, and surprisingly, a lot of air. Plants need nutrients. One nutrient that they need that they cannot produce themselves is nitrogen. Where have we seen the nitrogen cycle before? Where did we talk about this? In bogs when we were talking about prokaryotes. Nitrogen is vital to plant survival. Without prokaryotes living in the soil, though, you cannot fix that nitrogen into something usable. So, there are still plants that live in places that have very poor nitrogen levels, like in a bog. Here, you can see there's not many plants growing. There's very, very few plants, and those plants that are growing there are adapted to low nitrogen levels. But there are some things that animals have a lot of nitrogen in them. So if you're not able to get, if these plants can't get nitrogen from prokaryotes, they can turn to other sources like animals. And that's where you get your carnivorous plants. We have several different types of carnivorous plants. These plants are adapted to low nitrogen levels by taking nitrogen out of animals. One is the pitfall trap. These are probably one of the more common. They are going to either collect water like these big vase plants, pitcher plants, or they're going to secrete water into their base. So at the very, very bottom, you have water building up. Into that water, they're going to secrete enzymes that break down other organisms, just like your stomach would start digesting organisms. Typically, they're going to have some foul smells to them. They'll smell like rotting meat. Why would they smell like rotting meat? Yeah, it attracts insects. They got this big red areas. That red, we think, simulates a wound. It's got... Basically, what ends up happening is when you have a big red leaf on the outside and a hole up here, even if the organism tried to escape, they're trying to get out to that red, and they just sort of hang out on the side. They get trapped. They get confused, and they're slowly being digested. You might have what are called flypaper traps. They use sticky mucilage, glycocalyx, because when in doubt, glycocalyx. It's secreted by the plant, and that traps the organism. Because of thigmotropism, once that organism touches one, the plant begins to curl. Well, if the organism's stuck and it's curling, it holds it tight. Each of those is not just containing mucilage, it's also containing digestive enzymes. So it's being broken down as it's held in place. Your snap traps. Think of your Venus flytraps. These are going to, they've got hair triggers on them that cause a very quick reaction. When an organism lands on it, it closes quick. That doesn't crush the organism, it just traps it onto these pads where digestive enzymes are being released. Interesting enough, if you ever get a Venus flytrap, don't just touch it and make it close its mouth. It can only open and close about 3 times before the head falls off. Surprise! It'll constantly grow back new heads, assuming it's got the food to do it. But you don't want to just keep opening and closing them. Your aquatic bladder traps, these guys operate underwater. They operate using this cool form of osmosis. Basically, you've got sort of a, You got a membrane. This is a semi-permeable membrane, and you've got a digestive chamber. What will happen is, so you guys can all see, into the chamber behind the membrane, you start pumping in a bunch of solutes. Water always goes to where solutes are, right? Yes? Osmosis. So water is going to be constantly pulled inward. Anything that's on the outside of that plant gets sucked in and then digested right in that chamber. And then you've got your lobster pot traps. These operate sort of like the bladder traps, except basically think of them as mazes. They've got roots extending down that are going to allow protists and microorganisms to start to swim into them. And they get trapped in this maze. And as they get trapped in that maze, they are slowly digested. Kind of creepy. Like worst nightmare, right? You get trapped in the maze, and slowly, while you're in the maze, you're being digested. Bit by bit. Horror movie right there. So those are the different carnivorous plants and how they can adapt to get nutrients from their environment if they don't have nitrogen present. Remember, plants cannot produce their own nitrogen. They need to get it from prokaryotes or from other sources like animals. What's nitrogen good for anyway? Do you guys remember? What do we need it for? Two big things. Amino acids is the huge one. The other one is nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. Exactly right.